The autumn sun bathed the quiet streets of Chicago's suburbs in a warm golden light. On that Saturday afternoon, the neighborhood exuded the typical calm of a weekend, with the occasional bark of a dog or the distant laughter of children playing. At 28 Maple Street, little Emily, just 7 years old, was enjoying the pleasant day by playing on the sidewalk in front of her house. With her brown hair tied in 2 braids and wearing a denim overall already stained with chalk, Emily was absorbed in her world of colorful drawings. Beside her, lying on the trimmed grass of the garden, was Buddy, the family's loyal Labrador. His golden coat gleaming in the sun, Buddy kept a watchful eye on his little companion, his ears occasionally twitching as they caught distant sounds. Emily's mother, Laura, watched the scene from the living room window as she finished organizing some work papers. As a pediatrician, she always valued outdoor time for children's healthy development. Seeing her daughter so happy and carefree brought a smile to her lips. Michael, Emily's father, was in the backyard fixing the fence. The soft sound of his hammering echoed through the air, blending with the familiar noises of the neighborhood. It was an afternoon like any other, or so it seemed. Emily was completely immersed in her drawing, carefully tracing the outline of a house with a large heart in the center. Her face was scrunched in concentration, her tongue slightly sticking out, a habit she had when focused on a task. Suddenly, a distant growl cut through the air. Buddy immediately raised his head, his ears perking up in alert. Emily, still absorbed in her drawing, didn't notice the sudden shift in the atmosphere. The growl grew louder, closer. It was then that Emily finally looked up from her drawing. A few meters away, a large, unfamiliar dog was slowly approaching. Its dark fur was bristling, teeth bared in a menacing snarl. The animal's eyes were fixed on Emily, who remained frozen, the chalk falling from her small hand. Time seemed to slow down. Emily felt her heart racing, but she couldn't move. Fear kept her rooted to the ground, unable to scream or run. The unknown dog took another step toward her, its growl growing more intense with each passing second. It was at that moment that Buddy sprang into action. With a loud, determined bark, he leaped from the grass, positioning himself between Emily and the threatening dog. His golden fur was bristling, his teeth bared, but his stance was purely defensive. Buddy wasn't there to fight. He was there to protect. The intruder dog hesitated for a moment, caught off guard by the sudden intervention. Seizing the opportunity, Buddy barked again, this time louder and more forceful. It was a clear warning. "Don't come any closer." What followed lasted only a few seconds, but to Emily, it felt like an eternity. The unknown dog, realizing it wouldn't have an easy target, slowly backed away. Buddy held his ground, not advancing, but not yielding an inch either. His eyes were locked on the intruder, his body tense and ready to act if needed. Finally, with one last frustrated growl, the unknown dog turned and ran off, quickly disappearing down the street. Only then did Buddy relax, turning to Emily and gently licking her hand as if to say everything was okay now. The scream trapped in Emily's throat finally escaped, not as a cry of fear, but as a sob of relief. She threw her arms around Buddy's neck, burying her face in his soft fur. Drawn by the noise, Laura and Michael rushed outside to find their daughter hugging the dog, trembling slightly. They quickly pieced together what had happened. Laura knelt beside Emily, wrapping her in a tight hug, while Michael scanned the street, looking for any sign of the intruder dog. "Everything is okay, my love," Laura whispered, stroking Emily's hair. "You're safe now." Michael joined the embrace, his voice trembling slightly as he spoke. "Buddy saved us, didn't he?" "He's our hero." Emily nodded, still clinging to Buddy's neck. The Labrador remained patient, as if he understood the girl's need for comfort. In the days that followed, the family processed what had happened. The incident, though frightening, had revealed something extraordinary about Buddy. It wasn't just his bravery that impressed them, but the calm and controlled way he had handled the situation. It was Laura who first brought up the idea. "What if we could train Buddy to help other people?" she suggested during dinner a few days later. "There are assistance dog programs. Buddy clearly has the temperament for it." Michael enthusiastically agreed. "We could start small, see how he does." Emily, who had become even more attached to Buddy since the incident, was excited by the idea. "Can Buddy be a superhero for other kids too?" she asked, her eyes shining. The decision was made that night. They would explore training possibilities for Buddy, with the goal of turning him into a certified assistance dog. What they didn't know was that this decision wouldn't just change Buddy's life, it would also open doors to a much larger project than any of them could have imagined. While the family animatedly discussed future plans, Buddy rested at the foot of the table, his eyes moving from one face to another, as if he understood that something important was happening. Somehow he seemed to know that his life was about to change, and that new challenges and adventures awaited him. Night fell over Maple Street, enveloping house number 28 in a blanket of quiet. But inside that house, a new energy pulsed. A seed had been planted, an idea that would grow and flourish, touching more lives than they could foresee at that moment. And so, with Buddy lying at Emily's feet as she prepared for bed, the first chapter of this new journey came to an end. But it was only the beginning of a much larger story, a story of courage, compassion, and the transformative power of love between humans and animals. The weeks following the incident were filled with intense research and planning for the Johnson family. Laura, with her methodical nature as a doctor, dove headfirst into articles and studies about assistance dogs. Michael, always practical, began reaching out to training centers in Chicago. Meanwhile, Emily watched everything with a mix of excitement and apprehension, alternating between moments of enthusiasm about Buddy's future superhero work and moments of worry about the time she would spend away from him during training. On a Sunday afternoon, the family gathered in the living room to discuss the next steps. Buddy, as if sensing the importance of the moment, lay down in the center of the room, his attentive eyes moving from one face to another. "I found a training center specialized in assistance dogs in the Lincoln Park neighborhood," Michael began, holding a few brochures. "They have a 6-month program, with the option of daily training or a boarding regimen." Laura nodded, flipping through her own notes. "I've read about them. They have an excellent reputation, but 6 months is a serious commitment. We need to make sure we're all prepared for this." Emily, sitting on the floor beside Buddy, hugged the dog's neck. "But Buddy will come home every day, right?" Her voice trembled slightly. Michael knelt beside his daughter, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Well, sweetheart, it depends on the type of training we choose. If we go with the daily program, yes, Buddy will come home every night. But if we decide on the boarding option, he'll stay at the center during the week and come home on weekends." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "But I don't want to be away from Buddy. What if he forgets about us?" Laura joined them on the floor, forming a circle around Buddy. "Oh, honey, Buddy would never forget us. Remember how he protected us? That love doesn't go away just because he'll be away for a few days. Besides," Michael added with an encouraging smile, "think about how many other kids Buddy will be able to help after his training. He'll be a hero to so many people, just like he is to you." Emily sniffled, thoughtful. "Like a real superhero." "Exactly," Laura agreed. "And every superhero needs training, right?" The girl nodded slowly, a small smile beginning to form on her lips. "I guess so. But can we visit him at the training center?" "Of course," Michael assured her. "In fact, why don't we all visit the center tomorrow? That way we can meet the trainers and see what the place is like." The idea seemed to excite Emily, who enthusiastically agreed. The next morning, the Johnson family headed to the Paws for Hope Training Center, located in a wooded area of Lincoln Park. The place was surprisingly spacious, with large green areas and modern facilities. They were greeted by Jessica, an experienced trainer with a warm smile. "Welcome to Paws for Hope," she greeted, shaking everyone's hands, including a shy Emily. "And who is this handsome fellow?" she asked, kneeling to greet Buddy. "This is Buddy," Michael introduced. "He recently protected our daughter from an aggressive dog, and that made us think about training him as a service dog." Jessica listened attentively as the family told the story. Her eyes sparkled with growing interest. "Impressive," she commented. "Buddy has shown natural protective instincts and control. That's an excellent starting point for a service dog." The trainer then guided them on a tour of the facilities. She showed them the training areas, the comfortable kennels where the dogs stayed during boarding, and even a socialization area where various dogs played under supervision. Emily, initially apprehensive, began to get excited as she saw how happy and well cared for the dogs seemed. Her eyes widened in admiration as she witnessed a demonstration of a service dog helping a person in a wheelchair open doors and pick up objects. "Wow! Is Buddy going to learn how to do all that?" she asked, impressed. Jessica smiled. "With proper training, yes. Buddy has the potential to learn various assistance skills." As they walked, Jessica explained the training process. "We start with basic obedience and then progress to more specific tasks. The training also includes exposure to different environments and situations to ensure the dog remains calm and focused in any circumstance." Laura, always attentive to medical details, asked, "What about interaction with sick or disabled people? How do you prepare the dogs for that?" "Great question," Jessica replied. "We have partnerships with hospitals and rehabilitation centers. The dogs in advanced training make regular visits, getting used to medical equipment, wheelchairs, and different types of disabilities." Michael, impressed with everything he saw, questioned, "And how long does it take for a dog to be fully trained?" "Our standard program is 6 months," Jessica explained, "but each dog is unique. Some may need a bit more time, others less. The important thing is that by the end of the training, the dog is fully prepared for its assistance role." At the end of the tour, the family gathered to discuss their impressions. Emily, though still a bit hesitant about being away from Buddy, was visibly more excited about the idea. "They seem to take very good care of the puppies here," she commented, looking at her parents. Laura and Michael exchanged glances. It was clear that both were impressed with the center and its professional approach. "What do you think, Buddy?" Michael asked, stroking the Labrador's head. "Are you ready for a new adventure?" As if understanding the question, Buddy let out a cheerful bark, wagging his tail vigorously. The decision was made right then and there. Buddy would start his training the following week, in a boarding program. Although the prospect of being away from him during the week was tough, especially for Emily, the family knew they were making the right choice. As they prepared to leave, Jessica made one final remark that would stay with them. "Remember, it's not just Buddy who will be in training. You as a family will also be learning and growing through this process. It's a journey you'll take together." On the way back home, the car was filled with a mix of emotions, anticipation, a bit of anxiety, but above all, a sense of purpose. They were about to embark on something bigger than they had initially imagined. That night, as Emily got ready for bed, she hugged Buddy extra tight. "You're going to be the best assistance dog in the world, Buddy," she whispered in his ear. "And when you come back, we'll help so many people together." Buddy responded with a loving lick on Emily's face, as if sealing a silent promise. The adventure was just beginning, and the future, though uncertain, shone with exciting possibilities. The day Buddy left for the Paws for Hope Training Center dawned cloudy, as if the sky reflected the mix of emotions hanging over the Silver household. Emily, still in her pajamas, clung to Buddy in the living room, her red eyes betraying a sleepless night. "Do you promise you'll behave, Buddy?" she murmured, burying her face in the Labrador's soft fur. Buddy, as if understanding the gravity of the moment, remained unusually quiet, occasionally licking Emily's face in a comforting gesture. Laura and Michael watched the scene, their hearts heavy. Although convinced they were making the right decision, seeing their daughter's anguish made everything more difficult. "It's time, sweetheart," Laura said softly, placing a hand on Emily's shoulder. "Remember, Buddy will come home every weekend, and we can visit him on Wednesdays." Emily nodded silently, wiping her tears with the back of her hands. With one last tight hug for Buddy, she stood up, allowing Michael to put the leash on the dog. The trip to the training center was quiet, punctuated only by Emily's occasional sighs from the back seat. Buddy, sitting beside her, kept his snout resting on her leg, as if wanting to savor every second of contact. Upon arrival, they were greeted by Jessica, who waited for them with an understanding smile. "I know it's hard," she said, addressing Emily in particular, "but I promise we'll take very good care of Buddy. And before you know it, the weekend will come, and you'll be together again." The farewell was brief but emotional. Emily hugged Buddy one last time, whispering in his ear, "Be a good boy. Okay. I love you." Buddy responded with a gentle lick, his eyes locked on hers, as if making a silent promise. As the car drove away, Emily looked out the rear window, watching Buddy and Jessica grow smaller and smaller until they disappeared from view. The ride back home was marked by a heavy silence, broken only by Emily's occasional muffled sobs. The first days without Buddy were the hardest. Emily wandered around the house, often stopping at the dog's favorite spots: his bed in the corner of the living room, the kitchen rug where he used to wait for treats, the flower bed in the garden that he loved to sniff. The house felt strangely empty and quiet, without the sound of Buddy's paws on the wooden floors. Laura and Michael did their best to keep Emily busy and cheerful. They organized family game nights, park outings, and even a trip to the zoo on the first weekend. Although these activities brought momentary smiles to Emily's face, it was evident that she deeply missed her canine companion. On Wednesday, the day of the first visit to the training center, finally arrived. Emily could barely concentrate at school, counting down the minutes until she could see Buddy again. When they finally arrived at Paws for Hope, her eyes anxiously scanned the area, searching for the familiar golden fur. Jessica greeted them with a warm smile. "Buddy is doing really well," she said, guiding them to the training area. "He's smart and very dedicated. Come and see." As they turned a corner, they spotted Buddy. He was sitting attentively, watching another trainer demonstrate a command. When he saw the family, his ears perked up, and his tail began wagging furiously. But to everyone's surprise, he stayed in place, looking at the trainer as if asking for permission. "Buddy, come," the trainer called, and only then did the Labrador run toward the family, jumping joyfully around Emily. "Wow!" exclaimed Michael, impressed. "He's already so obedient." Jessica smiled proudly. "Buddy has a natural talent. He's already mastered the basic obedience commands, and we're starting to introduce more specific assistance tasks." Emily knelt down, hugging Buddy tightly. "You're being such a good boy, aren't you?" she whispered, and Buddy responded with an affectionate lick. During the visit, the family had the opportunity to observe part of Buddy's training. They saw how he learned to pick up fallen objects, open doors with a special rope tied to the handles, and even how he was being conditioned to remain calm in stressful or noisy situations. "It's amazing how much he's progressed in such a short time," Laura commented, watching Buddy perform the tasks with precision. Jessica nodded. Buddy has a rare balance between obedience and initiative. He follows commands readily but also shows the ability to make independent decisions when necessary. That's crucial for an assistance dog. Before they left, Jessica had a serious conversation with the family. "Buddy's progress is excellent, but it's important to remember that training is a process. There will be ups and downs. Some days will be harder than others, both for Buddy and for you. Consistency and patience will be key." On the way back home, the family's mood was noticeably lighter. Seeing Buddy's progress had renewed their enthusiasm for the project. Even Emily, who had been so sad in recent days, was now talking excitedly about all the amazing things Buddy was learning. "Mum, do you think Buddy will be able to help me with my homework when he comes back?" Emily asked, her eyes shining with excitement. Laura chuckled softly. "Well, sweetheart, Buddy is being trained to help people with special needs, but I'm sure he'll sit by your side while you do your homework." The following weeks established a new routine for the Johnson family. Wednesdays had become the most anticipated day of the week, with visits to the training center. The weekends, when Buddy returned home, were filled with joy and play, though Laura and Michael had to constantly remind Emily and themselves to maintain discipline and not undo the trainer's hard work. As the training progressed, Buddy began to show increasingly impressive skills. He learned to detect subtle changes in body odor, which could indicate fluctuations in blood sugar levels, a valuable skill for assisting people with diabetes. He was also trained to recognize early signs of seizures, able to alert the person or seek help. One day, during one of their visits, the family had the opportunity to see Buddy working with a child with autism. The way the dog could calm the child during a moment of anxiety was touching. Emily, watching the scene, felt a mix of pride and a pang of jealousy that surprised her. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" Laura asked, noticing her daughter's thoughtful expression. Emily hesitated for a moment before answering. "It's just, Buddy is helping so many people now. Sometimes I wonder if he'll still want to be just my dog when he comes back home." Michael knelt beside Emily, putting an arm around her shoulders. "Oh, my love, Buddy will always be your special friend. He's just learning to share that special love with other people who really need it. That doesn't take away from the love he has for you." At that moment, as if he had heard the conversation, Buddy approached Emily, resting his head on her lap and looking at her with those expressive eyes full of affection. Emily couldn't help but smile, feeling her heart fill with love and pride. As Buddy's training progressed, the Johnson family was also going through their own journey of growth. They were learning about empathy, sacrifice, and the transformative power of helping others. What had started as a project to train a dog was becoming an experience that would change their lives forever. The months flew by quickly, and with them Buddy's training advanced by leaps and bounds. The Golden Labrador had become something of a celebrity at the Paws for Hope Training Center, impressing trainers and visitors alike with his sharp intelligence and tireless dedication. On a sunny Wednesday afternoon, the Johnson family arrived at the center for their weekly visit, eager to see Buddy's latest progress. Jessica greeted them with a smile even wider than usual. "I have a surprise for you today," she announced, guiding them to an area of the center they had never visited before. It was a space that resembled a small apartment, complete with furniture, appliances, and even a hospital bed. "This is our simulation environment," Jessica explained. "Here we train the dogs in situations that are as close to real life as possible. And today Buddy is going to do his first full demonstration." Emily's eyes widened with excitement. "Can we watch? Can we watch?" she asked, almost jumping with anticipation. Jessica laughed. "Of course, in fact, I'll need your help." She then explained the scenario. Michael would pretend to be a person with limited mobility, confined to a wheelchair. Laura would simulate an anxiety attack, and Emily would act as a child with autism experiencing sensory overload. "Buddy will have to respond appropriately to each situation," Jessica said. "Let's see how he does." The demonstration began with Michael in the wheelchair, asking Buddy to fetch various objects and open doors. The Labrador performed each task with precision, his tail wagging slightly, showing his pleasure in helping. Next, it was Laura's turn to simulate an anxiety attack. To everyone's surprise, Buddy immediately positioned himself by her side, applying gentle pressure with his body, a technique known as deep pressure therapy that can calm people during moments of intense stress. Finally, it was Emily's turn. Following Jessica's instructions, she curled up in a corner, covering her ears and making sounds of distress, simulating a sensory overload. Buddy approached the situation with surprising delicacy. He slowly moved closer, lay down beside Emily without touching her, and waited patiently. When Emily finally calmed down and reached out to touch him, Buddy responded with a gentle affection, offering comfort without being invasive. By the end of the demonstration, even Jessica seemed moved. "I knew Buddy was special, but this was exceptional," she said, her voice filled with pride. The Johnson family was speechless, amazed by the transformation of their beloved pet into a highly skilled assistance dog. Emily, in particular, looked at Buddy with a mix of admiration and a newfound respect. It was at that moment that Jessica made an announcement that would change the course of their story. "With Buddy's extraordinary progress, I believe he is ready for the next step in his training. We would like to include him in a pilot program for assistance dogs in a hospital setting." The news hit the family like a bombshell. On one hand, it was an incredible honor, a validation of Buddy's exceptional potential. On the other, it meant an extension of his training time and potentially less time at home. "How long would this program last?" Michael asked, his voice betraying a mix of pride and concern. "It would be an additional 3 months," Jessica replied. "Buddy would spend most of his time at St. Luke's Hospital, working with patients under supervision. He would still come home on weekends, but weekday visits would be at the hospital, not here at the center." Emily, who had been radiant with Buddy's performance, felt her heart sink. 3 more months, she murmured, her voice almost inaudible. Laura, sensing her daughter's emotional turmoil, knelt beside her. "Sweetheart, I know it's hard, but think about how many people Buddy will be able to help at the hospital. Remember how proud you felt today watching him work?" Emily nodded slowly, her eyes filling with tears. "I know, but I miss him so much." Michael joined them, forming a family hug. "It's a big decision," he said, looking at Jessica. "Can we have a few days to think about it?" "Of course," Jessica replied understandingly. "Take all the time you need. In the meantime, Buddy will continue his regular training here." On the way back home, the car was immersed in a thoughtful silence, Each family member was lost in their own thoughts, weighing the pros and cons of the new opportunity. It was Emily who finally broke the silence. If Buddy goes to the hospital, can we visit him there?" Laura exchanged a quick glance with Michael before responding. "I believe so, sweetheart. We'd have to check with Jessica, but I don't see why not." "And," Michael added, trying to lighten the mood, "think of all the amazing stories Buddy will have to tell us when he comes home on weekends." A small smile formed on Emily's face. "I think it would be cool to see Buddy helping people at the hospital, like a real doctor." The days that followed were filled with intense family discussions. They carefully weighed all aspects of the decision. On one hand, the opportunity for Buddy to participate in a groundbreaking program was incredible and could open doors for future assistance dogs. On the other hand, it meant more time away from home and an even more challenging routine for everyone. One evening, during dinner, Laura brought up a point they hadn't yet considered. "You know, this hospital experience could be very valuable not just for Buddy, but for us too. Especially for you, Emily." The girl looked at her mother, curious. "How so?" "Well, you've always said you wanted to be a veterinarian when you grew up, but have you ever thought about medicine, working with people? This could be an opportunity to see what life is like in a hospital, to understand how animals can help in healing people." Emily's eyes lit up at the idea. She had never considered the possibility of working with both people and animals at the same time. It was at that moment that the family realized Buddy's journey wasn't just about him. It was about all of them growing, learning, and transforming together. The next morning, they made a call to Jessica. The decision was made. Buddy would participate in the pilot program at St. Luke's Hospital. The weeks that followed were filled with intense preparation. The family received guidance on what the hospital visits would be like, the rules they needed to follow, and how they could support Buddy in this new phase of his training. Meanwhile, at the training center, Buddy began to be prepared for the hospital environment. He was exposed to the sounds of medical equipment, the smells of hospital cleaning products, and even the touch of different textures he might encounter, such as latex gloves and lab coats. The eve of Buddy's first day at the hospital arrived faster than the family had expected. That night, gathered in the living room, each of them expressed their hopes and concerns. "I'm nervous," Emily admitted, absent-mindedly stroking Buddy's head as he lay beside her. "What if the people at the hospital don't like him?" Michael smiled gently. "Honey, Buddy won over everyone at the training center. I'm sure he'll do the same at the hospital." Laura nodded in agreement. "Besides, remember that this is an opportunity for Buddy to do what he does best, help people. He was born for this." That night, before bed, Emily had a long talk with Buddy. She knew he couldn't respond with words, but his attentive eyes and occasional head tilts made her feel like he understood every word. "You're going to be amazing, Buddy," she whispered, hugging him tightly. "You're going to help so many people. I'm so proud of you. Just don't forget about us, okay?" Buddy responded with a loving lick, as if making a silent promise that no matter where he was or who he was helping, his heart would always belong to the Johnson family. As the house fell into the silence of the night, there was a palpable sense of anticipation in the air. A new chapter was about to begin, not just for Buddy, but for the entire family. St. Luke's Hospital didn't know it yet, but it was about to welcome a four-legged angel, ready to spread love, comfort, and healing through its halls. Buddy's first day at St. Luke's Hospital dawned sunny, as if the sky itself wanted to welcome the new member of the team. The Silver family woke up early, anxious and excited. Emily insisted on putting a blue bow on Buddy's collar. "For good luck," she said. When they arrived at the hospital, they were greeted by Dr. Elizabeth Johnson, the coordinator of the Animal-Assisted Therapy Program. With a warm smile, she guided them through the immaculately white hallways. "Buddy will primarily be in the pediatric wing," explained Dr. Elizabeth. "We believe his energy and charisma will be particularly beneficial for the hospitalized children." As they walked, Emily noticed how people reacted to Buddy's presence. Nurses smiled, patients in wheelchairs reached out to pet him, and even busy doctors paused for a moment to admire the golden-haired Labrador. "See," Michael whispered to the family. "Buddy is already making a difference just by being here." When they reached the pediatric wing, they were introduced to the team that would work directly with Buddy. Among them was John, a young and enthusiastic nurse who would be Buddy's primary handler during his stay at the hospital. "We're very excited to work with Buddy," John said, kneeling to greet the dog. "We have some children who are especially eager to meet him." The first patient Buddy visited was Sophia, an 8-year-old girl undergoing leukemia treatment. When Buddy entered the room, the girl's eyes lit up in a way her parents hadn't seen in weeks. "Puppy," Sophia exclaimed, her voice weak but full of joy. With surprising gentleness, Buddy approached the bed, placing his head within reach of Sophia's hands. The girl sank her fingers into Max's soft fur, and for a moment, everyone in the room could see the weight of illness dissipate from her face. Emily, watching the scene, felt an emotion she couldn't quite name. It was a mix of pride, joy, and a growing understanding of the impact Max could have. Throughout the day, Max visited several patients. For some, he offered silent comfort, lying beside their beds. For others, he performed simple tricks that drew laughter and applause. In every room he entered, he left behind a trail of smiles and lighter hearts. At the end of the day, as the family prepared to leave, Dr. Elizabeth approached them with a radiant smile. "I can't express how much Max has done today," she said. "We saw children who hadn't smiled in days light up. Patients who were reluctant to do physical therapy were motivated to walk just so they could take Max for a stroll. He's truly special." On the way home, the car was filled with a different energy. It was no longer the anxiety or apprehension of previous days, but a sense of purpose and fulfillment. "Mum," Emily suddenly said, breaking the silence, "I think when I grow up I want to work in a hospital, not just as a doctor, but doing something that involves animals too. Like Dr. Elizabeth." Laura smiled through the rearview mirror. "That would be wonderful, sweetheart. Did you see how animals can make a difference in people's lives?" The following weeks established a new routine for the Silver family. Their Wednesday visits to the hospital became the highlight of the week. Emily, in particular, began to look forward to these days, not just to see Buddy, but to interact with the patients and medical staff. One day during one of her visits, Emily met Matthew, a 10-year-old boy who was at the hospital for a series of corrective surgeries. Matthew was shy and reluctant to interact with people, but he immediately opened up to Buddy. "He likes you," Emily said, watching as Buddy gently rested his head on Matthew's lap. Matthew smiled shyly. "I like him too. He doesn't look at me like I'm different." Those words deeply touched Emily. She began to understand that Buddy's work went far beyond simply performing tricks or offering affection. He was helping people feel accepted and loved, regardless of their conditions. Meanwhile, at home, Buddy's absence during the week was still felt, but in a different way. The family began to see this separation not as a sacrifice, but as an opportunity for growth and positive impact. Michael, inspired by Buddy's work, started volunteering on weekends at a local animal shelter. Laura, in turn, began a support group for parents of hospitalized children, using her experience as a pediatrician and the lessons learned from Buddy's program. One day, during dinner, Michael made a surprising announcement. "I've been thinking," he began, "and I think we should consider adopting another dog." The family looked at him surprised. "Not to replace Buddy, of course," he quickly added, "but to be a companion at home, especially for Emily. And who knows, in the future, this dog might also be trained to help others." The idea was met with enthusiasm, especially by Emily. The prospect of having another dog at home, one that could be her constant companion while Buddy was at the hospital, thrilled her immensely. At the hospital, Buddy continued to surprise everyone with his intuition and dedication. There was one particularly memorable day when he alerted the medical team to a change in a patient's condition, even before the monitors detected anything. It happened with Luke, a 5-year-old boy recovering from heart surgery. Buddy, who was visiting the room, suddenly became agitated, barking and pulling John toward Luke's bed. Seconds later, the monitors began to sound, indicating a drop in the boy's oxygen saturation. Thanks to Buddy's early warning, the medical team was able to intervene quickly, preventing serious complications. This incident not only solidified the importance of the animal-assisted therapy program, but also showed that Buddy had developed skills that went beyond standard training. The news of Buddy's sixth sense spread quickly throughout the hospital. Soon, other departments began requesting his visits. Suddenly, Buddy wasn't just working in the pediatric wing, but also visiting patients in oncology, rehabilitation, and even the ICU. With the growing demand for Buddy, Dr. Elizabeth approached the Silver family with a proposal. "We're considering expanding our animal-assisted therapy program," she explained. "We'd like to use Buddy as a model to train more dogs. This would mean he'd spend more time at the hospital, but it would also allow us to help even more people." The family found themselves facing another difficult decision. On one hand, the idea of Buddy spending even more time away from home was challenging. On the other hand, the impact he was having was undeniable, and the opportunity to expand this work was exciting. After much discussion, they agreed to the proposal with one condition. The family wanted to be more actively involved in the program. Laura offered to give talks on the benefits of animal-assisted therapy. Michael volunteered to help with logistics and planning, and Emily had her own plans. "I want to be a junior trainer," she announced with determination. "I want to learn everything about training therapy dogs so that when I grow up, I can do it professionally." Dr. Elizabeth Johnson was delighted by the family's enthusiasm. "This is exactly the kind of involvement we need to help this program grow," she said. "You're not just Max's family, you're an integral part of this team." As they prepared for this new phase, the Johnson family reflected on how much their lives had changed since that fateful afternoon when Max protected Emily from an aggressive dog. What had started as a project to train a service dog had turned into a mission that was impacting hundreds of lives. Max, of course, remained unaware of the magnitude of his impact. For him, each day was simply an opportunity to do what he loved most, being by people's side, offering comfort, joy, and sometimes even saving lives. As the sun set over St. Luke's Hospital, casting a golden glow through the windows, Max rested at the nursing station, his head gently resting on the lap of an exhausted nurse. In rooms along the hallway, patients slept a little more peacefully, their hearts a little lighter, thanks to the visit of a four-legged angel. And at home, the Johnson family prepared for bed, their hearts full of purpose and their dreams filled with a bright future, a future where the love of a dog could truly change the world. The animal-assisted therapy program at St. Luke's Hospital was about to enter a new era. With Max as their star canine ambassador, Dr. Elizabeth Johnson and her team were ready to expand their efforts, bringing hope and healing to even more patients. The Johnson family, now deeply involved in the program, faced new challenges and opportunities. Laura divided her time between the pediatric clinic and lectures on the benefits of animal-assisted therapy. Her presentations, filled with touching stories and scientific data, were attracting increasing attention from the medical community. Michael, with his management experience, became a key player in the logistics of the expanding program. He coordinated volunteers, organized schedules, and even helped raise funds for the project. But it was Emily who was undergoing one of the most remarkable transformations. At 11 years old, she had become the youngest junior trainer in the program. Under the careful guidance of John and other experienced trainers, Emily quickly learned the nuances of therapy dog training. One Saturday afternoon, while working with a young golden retriever named Luna, Emily had a moment of epiphany. "You know, Luna," she said, stroking the dog's head, "it's not just about teaching tricks. It's about building a connection, a partnership. You and we're going to help people together." John, watching closely, couldn't help but smile. "For you have a natural gift for this, Emily," he remarked. "It's rare to see someone so young understand the essence of this work so well." The program was growing rapidly. What started with Buddy now included a team of 10 dogs, each with their own specialties and unique personalities. There was Bella, a tiny poodle perfect for visiting patients with limited mobility. Thor, a gentle St. Bernard, brought comfort to palliative care patients. And Luna, Emily's new protégé, showed a special talent for calming children during frightening medical procedures. With growth came new challenges. The demand for therapy dog visits far exceeded the current team's capacity. Dr. Elizabeth and Michael spent long hours discussing how to expand the program sustainably without compromising the quality of care. It was during one of these discussions that an innovative idea emerged. "What if we expanded beyond the hospital?" Michael suggested. "We could take the dogs to schools, nursing homes, rehabilitation centers." Dr. Elizabeth's eyes lit up. Elizabeth shone with the possibility. "Michael, this is brilliant. We could create a network of animal-assisted therapy across the city." The idea quickly gained momentum. Soon they were developing a plan to create the Pause That Heal project, an initiative that would bring the benefits of animal-assisted therapy beyond the walls of the hospital. Meanwhile, Buddy continued his work at the hospital, now not only as a therapist but also as a mentor to the new dogs in the program. It was fascinating to see how he gently guided the younger dogs, showing them how to behave in different hospital situations. One day, during a visit to the pediatric oncology ward, Buddy and Emily met Anna, a 9-year-old girl battling aggressive cancer. Anna was in the middle of a particularly difficult chemotherapy treatment and had withdrawn, refusing to speak or interact with the medical team. When Buddy entered the room, something changed. Anna, who was curled up in her bed, slowly looked up. Buddy approached carefully, gently placing his head on the edge of the bed. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then, slowly, Anna reached out and touched Buddy's soft fur. A small smile, the first in weeks, appeared on her lips. Emily, watching the scene, felt tears in her eyes. She approached the bed, speaking softly. "Hi, Anna. This is Buddy. He loves making new friends." Anna looked at Emily, then back at Buddy. "He's beautiful," she whispered, her voice hoarse from disuse. In the days that followed, Anna began to eagerly anticipate the visits from Buddy and Emily. Slowly, she started to open up, first to Buddy, then to Emily, and finally to her medical team. Anna's transformation did not go unnoticed. Dr. Elizabeth Johnson used her as a case study at a major medical conference, highlighting the power of animal-assisted therapy in complex pediatric cases. The success of the program at St. Luke's Hospital and Anna's inspiring story caught the attention of the local media. Soon, reporters began to show up, wanting to cover the canine miracle that was happening. At first, the Johnson family felt a bit uncomfortable with all the attention, but Laura saw it as an opportunity to spread the message about the benefits of animal-assisted therapy to a broader audience. One morning, the family was invited for a live interview on a popular morning TV show. Emily was nervous but determined to share her passion for the work she was doing. During the interview, the host asked Emily what motivated her to get so deeply involved in the program, despite her age. Emily took a deep breath and replied, "You know, when I see Buddy or Luna walking into a hospital room, and I see a patient's face light up, I realize we're doing more than just brightening someone's day. We're giving hope. We're showing that there's kindness and love in the world, even in the toughest times. And if I can be a part of that, even just a little bit, then I feel like I'm doing something truly important." Her words deeply touched the audience. In the following weeks, the program was flooded with offers of help, from volunteers wanting to join the project to companies offering financial support. With this new momentum, the Pause That Heal project took off. Within a few months, trained therapy dog teams were visiting schools for children with special needs, rehabilitation centers for veterans, and nursing homes for the elderly across the city. The Johnson family found themselves at the center of a gentle revolution. What started as one dog's journey had turned into a movement that was changing lives throughout the community. Buddy, of course, remained oblivious to his growing fame. For him, every day was a new opportunity to do what he loved most, being by people's side, offering unconditional comfort. One evening, as the family gathered for dinner, Laura looked around the table and smiled. "Do you realize how much our lives have changed in the past few months?" she asked. Michael nodded, his eyes shining with pride. "It's incredible to think that all of this started with Buddy protecting Emily that day." Emily, who was petting Buddy under the table, added thoughtfully, "You know, I think Buddy didn't just protect me that day. He showed us a path, a purpose." The family reflected on these words, recognizing the deep truth in them. What began as an act of protection had turned into a mission of healing and hope that touched countless lives. As night fell over the city, the Johnson family prepared for another day of work at the Pause That Heal project. In hospitals, schools, and homes throughout the region, people eagerly awaited the visit of a furry friend, bringing with them the transformative power of unconditional love. And at the center of it all was Buddy, the golden Labrador, who had shown a family and an entire community the incredible impact that a heart full of love can have on the world. The Pause That Heal project had become a phenomenon. What started as a local initiative at St. Luke's Hospital now extended throughout the city of Chicago, touching lives in ways no one could have predicted. The Johnson family, once an ordinary household, now found themselves at the epicenter of a compassionate revolution. Emily, at 13 years old, had become something of a child celebrity. Her passion for working with therapy dogs and her natural ability to connect with people of all ages made her the youthful face of the project. Schools invited her to give talks, inspiring other young people to get involved in volunteer work. At one of these talks, Emily met Jessica, a 14-year-old girl who used a wheelchair due to a spinal cord injury. Jessica was fascinated by Emily and Buddy's work. "How can I get involved?" Jessica asked after the lecture, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "I've always loved animals, but I thought my condition would prevent me from working with them." Emily smiled, an idea forming in her mind. "What if we created a special program for trainers with limited mobility? I'm sure there are many ways you could still help." This conversation led to a new initiative within the project, Paws for All. This sub-program focused on including people with disabilities in the training and handling of therapy dogs, proving that compassion and the desire to help know no physical limits. Meanwhile, Laura saw her career taking an unexpected turn. Her research on the therapeutic effects of animals in medical settings was gaining national recognition. She was invited to lead a groundbreaking study on the impact of animal-assisted therapy in the recovery of post-surgical patients. "It's amazing," Laura commented during a family dinner. "I started my career wanting to heal bodies, and now I'm discovering how to heal souls too." Michael, on the other hand, faced the challenges of managing a rapidly expanding project. The demand for the Healing Paws project was growing exponentially, and he found himself balancing the needs of volunteers, institutional partners, and, of course, the dogs themselves. "Sometimes I wonder if we're growing too fast," Michael confessed one night, massaging his temples. "I want to help everyone, but we also need to make sure we're taking good care of our team, both human and canine." It was Buddy who, inadvertently, offered a solution to this dilemma. During a routine visit to the hospital, Buddy started acting strangely near one of the new therapy dogs, a young Labradoodle named Buddy. Buddy seemed restless, constantly drawing the trainer's attention to Buddy. After closer observation, they discovered that Buddy was showing subtle signs of stress, signs that only Buddy's experienced eye had noticed. This led to a complete reassessment of the project's animal welfare protocols. "Buddy taught us a valuable lesson," Michael said during the following team meeting. "We cannot let our enthusiasm lead us to neglect the well-being of our four-legged partners. They are the heart of this project." This experience led to the creation of a new system for monitoring the well-being of the dogs, with mandatory rest periods and regular stress assessments. The dignified retirement program was also established, ensuring that older dogs could retire comfortably in loving homes. As the project grew, so did its impact on the community. Stories of transformation and healing multiplied. There was Mr. John, an elderly man in a nursing home who hadn't spoken for months after a stroke, but began forming words again during Luna's visits. Or little Sophia, an autistic girl who, through her interactions with Buddy, started developing social skills her therapists thought were impossible. The success of the Paws That Heal project did not go unnoticed by the authorities. One day, the Silver family received a surprising phone call. The mayor of Chicago wanted to meet them. During the meeting in the mayor's office, Emily, nervous but determined, presented an ambitious proposal to make Chicago the first therapy animal-friendly city in the United States. "Imagine a city where therapy dogs are welcome in every hospital, school, and public institution," Emily explained, her voice gaining confidence as she spoke. "Where the healing power of animals is recognized and integrated into our health and social services." The mayor listened attentively, clearly impressed by the young woman's passion and vision. "It's a fascinating idea," he said. "It will require a lot of work and many changes, but I believe it could bring immeasurable benefits to our city." In the weeks that followed, the Silver family found themselves involved in meetings with council members, city officials, and community leaders. The Paws That Heal project was about to become public policy. As the excitement around the project grew, the Silver family made sure to keep their feet on the ground. They knew that the true impact of their work was not in the spotlight or the headlines, but in the quiet moments of connection between humans and animals. One afternoon, Emily was at the hospital with Buddy, visiting Anna, the girl they had met months earlier during her cancer treatment. Anna was having a particularly tough day, struggling with the side effects of a new medication. Buddy, sensing Anna's discomfort, gently climbed onto the bed and snuggled up beside her. Anna wrapped her arms around Buddy's neck, burying her face in his soft fur. "Thank you for being here," Anna whispered. "You make me feel strong again." Emily, watching the scene, felt tears well up in her eyes. In that moment, all the challenges, all the sleepless nights, all the hard work were worth it. This was the true heart of the Pause That Heal project. Not the policies or the programs, but these moments of pure connection and healing. As the sun set over Chicago, casting a golden glow through the hospital windows, Emily reflected on the incredible journey her family had undertaken. From a simple act of protecting Buddy, they had created something that was changing their city and inspiring people across the country. And yet, at the center of it all, was the simple, pure love between humans and animals. A love that healed, that inspired, that transformed. A love that Emily knew would continue to create waves of change for many years to come. That evening, as the Johnson family gathered for dinner, there was a sense of gratitude and purpose in the air. They had embarked on a journey to train a dog, and in the process had discovered a life mission. Buddy, oblivious to the great changes he had inspired, rested contentedly at Emily's feet. For him, each day was simply a new opportunity to do what he loved most, being by people's side, offering unconditional love and silent healing. And so, as the city outside prepared for a new era of compassion and healing, the Johnson family prepared for another day of work in the Pause That Heal project. A project that had started with one dog, but now touched countless lives, proving that sometimes the biggest changes begin with 4 paws and a heart full of love.